You know what makes fear so powerful? It's not the danger itself, but the way your mind magnifies it until you freeze. Most people spend their lives negotiating with fear, hoping it will disappear if they avoid challenges. But Musashi, the undefeated samurai, discovered something entirely different. Fear is not to be ignored or escaped. It is to be mastered. Instead of shrinking in front of fear, he walked into it. Instead of waiting for courage to come, he acted and let courage grow out of action. This is what allowed him to face 60 duels without defeat and live a life that turned into legend. The same principles that made him unshakable can also forge your mind to stop being a prisoner of doubt and hesitation. In the next moments, I will show you how to use Musashi's way to face fear differently, transforming discomfort into training, turning doubt into silence, using pain as fuel, and learning to live so fully in the present that fear has no place left to stand. If you follow this path, you will discover a version of yourself that nothing and no one can intimidate. Most people see fear as a curse to be removed, but Musashi treated it as a teacher. He knew fear reveals exactly where you are weak. If a situation makes your heart race or your hands shake, that's not a sign to run away. It's a sign to train. Fear points directly at the area where growth must happen. Running from fear only makes it grow stronger. Facing it consistently, on the other hand, turns it into an ally. Musashi stepped into duels not because he was fearless, but because he had learned to turn fear into awareness. That awareness sharpened his senses and forced him to be present. You can apply this today. Don't ask, how do I stop feeling fear? Ask, what is this fear teaching me? When you treat fear as a guide instead of an enemy, you realize it's not there to destroy you. It's there to train you. This shift changes everything. Fear stops being a wall and becomes a compass. And once you see it this way, you'll stop wasting energy running and start using fear as the very path to strength. One of Musashi's deepest lessons was his ability to walk alone. In his final writings, he described the way of walking alone. He understood that as long as you depend on the approval, comfort, or encouragement of others, fear will always control you. What happens when support disappears? What happens when no one agrees with your path? That's where most minds collapse. Isolation was not his escape, but his training ground. By living in caves, with no luxuries and no audience, Musashi proved to himself that his mind could stand firm without needing validation. He discovered that independence is the foundation of mental invincibility. For you, this means making decisions without waiting for someone else's permission. Try it. Make a choice that matters entirely on your own. It will feel uncomfortable at first, but that discomfort is your mind growing stronger. The warrior who can stand alone doesn't fear abandonment, doesn't fear rejection, and doesn't fear walking a path few understand. This is the beginning of true freedom. Fear feeds on comfort. Every time you avoid pain or inconvenience, you teach yourself that you can only be strong under perfect conditions. Musashi reversed this logic. He deliberately sought discomfort, sleeping on hard ground, eating simple food, exposing himself to harsh environments, not as punishment, but as training. By practicing in difficulty, he made his mind unbreakable. When you can remain calm in the cold, in hunger and fatigue, then daily fears lose their grip. Discomfort becomes your dojo. It is where you prove to yourself that circumstances don't control your strength. For you, the path can be simple. Wake up earlier than you want, hold your commitments when tired, face the silence you normally avoid. Each act of embracing discomfort is like sharpening the blade of your mind. Every repetition weakens fear's influence. Every day you choose discomfort, you grow harder to intimidate. And slowly, you realize what Musashi always knew. Fear cannot rule over a mind that trains itself to endure. Doubt is fear's quietest weapon. It doesn't roar, it whispers. What if you fail? What if you're not enough? Many collapse under this inner dialogue before they even take action. Musashi knew that entertaining doubt meant losing before the battle began. His solution was silence. He didn't argue with the voice. He ignored it by acting. Each duel carried the chance of hesitation, but he relied on repetition to keep his mind quiet. Thousands of hours of training replaced doubt with instinct. When his blade moved, it wasn't thought. It was certainty born from practice. This is a power of training so deeply that doubt has no room to grow. You must adopt the same discipline. Don't waste time negotiating with insecurity. When doubt speaks, act. Make the move. Take the step. Face the situation. Each time you do, you prove to yourself that action is louder than fear. Over time, the silence becomes natural. The voice of doubt may never vanish completely, but it loses its power because you no longer listen. That silence is strength. It allows you to live without hesitation and execute with clarity. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Most men waste their lives avoiding discomfort, but avoidance only makes them fragile. Musashi turned pain into a sparring partner. Sleeping in caves, enduring hunger, and training in brutal conditions taught him that pain is not punishment. It is preparation. Each time you embrace discomfort, you shift your relationship with it. Instead of seeing pain as a threat, you see it as proof of growth. Like lifting weights, the strain is what makes you stronger. When Musashi chose difficult conditions, he made sure no pain could surprise him in battle or in life. You can apply this by embracing discomfort intentionally. Take the cold shower, complete the hard task, push through the training session when you'd rather rest. With every repetition, you remind yourself, I can endure. Pain becomes an ally when it no longer dictates your actions. Instead of running from it, you use it to sharpen your endurance and resilience. In this way, fear loses one of its strongest allies, because when you stop fearing pain, nothing external can easily break you. Many live as prisoners of others' opinions, paralyzed by the fear of rejection. Musashi dismantled this trap by walking his path without asking permission. His strength came from knowing that his choices were his own, not borrowed from the approval of others. Depending on praise makes you weak, because when it disappears, so does your confidence. True power comes from acting without needing external validation. Musashi's victories were not for applause. They were proof to himself that he could rely entirely on his own judgment. To practice this, make decisions without seeking reassurance. Take responsibility for the outcome. The discomfort of standing alone becomes training for independence. Each choice builds inner solidity. The man who breaks free from approval becomes untouchable. Criticism may sting, praise may flatter, but neither controls him. That is a mark of someone who commands his own path, just as Musashi did. Fear thrives on inconsistency. Each time you stop and start again, you tell yourself that fear is stronger. Consistency, however, kills fear's influence. Musashi trained daily, not when he felt like it, but because discipline demanded it. Sword, calligraphy, meditation, all practiced with the same relentless rhythm. Repetition is what erased hesitation. The more he trained, the less room there was for fear to interfere. Doubt weakens in the face of habit. For Musashi, constancy was not glamorous. It was survival. It was the invisible shield that protected him when battles came. In your own life, consistency is the weapon that dismantles fear. Commit to your practices, regardless of mood or circumstance. Fear cannot withstand a man who shows up every day without excuse. Each repetition reinforces your belief in yourself until showing up becomes automatic. Over time, the results become inevitable. Fear fades, not because it disappears, but because your daily actions make it irrelevant. Constancy builds an unshakable wall that no intimidation can break. That is why Musashi never strayed from his path, because consistency itself became his strength. Most fear is born from anticipation, the mind rejecting disasters that may never come. Musashi trained himself to remain entirely in the present. In battle, he focused only on the strike before him, not on the outcome. By living in the now, he robbed fear of its fuel and turned his attention into a weapon. The discipline of presence means directing your full energy to the action in front of you. Work when you work. Train when you train. Decide when it is time to decide. The future's uncertainty loses its grip when your attention is fully anchored in the present. This practice makes the mind immovable like a rock in a storm. You stop being pulled between what if and what was. Fear thrives in those places, but it has no hold in the immediacy of action. When you learn to live this way, tomorrow no longer enslaves you. Fear has no space to grow because you are entirely here, now, unshaken. This is the ultimate freedom, to live each moment as if it were the only one that exists. The fear of failure paralyzes more men than failure itself. Musashi understood that mistakes are not the end, but the continuation of the path. Every error became a chance to refine his craft. When he stumbled, he didn't abandon the way. He returned to it. This mindset made him unstoppable, because nothing could remove him from his discipline. You must adopt the same perspective. Failure does not define you. Quitting does. Each setback is feedback, showing where to sharpen your skills, where to strengthen your resolve. Instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" ask, "What did this failure teach me?" That shift transforms every defeat into a stepping stone. Fear loses its grip the moment you stop fearing mistakes. The man who accepts failure as part of growth becomes impossible to break. Like Musashi, you learn that one weak moment doesn't erase years of progress. It simply points toward the next lesson. Consistency, presence, and resilience all build toward one final principle: never straying from the way. Musashi wrote these words near the end of his life, and they carry the weight of decades of practice. True mastery is not built in bursts of inspiration, but in the relentless return to discipline, no matter the circumstance. The path is long, but it is simple. Each day you recommit. Each day you practice. Each day you rise again, no matter how many times you have fallen. The warrior does not wait for the perfect moment. He creates it by walking forward relentlessly. This is how fear finally loses its power. Not because it disappears, but because your steps never stop. Fear cannot defeat a man who refuses to abandon his way. That is the essence of discipline. Fear will always exist. It will whisper, it will test you, it will try to bend you. But Musashi revealed the truth. Fear only dominates those who allow it. By treating fear as a teacher, standing alone without dependence, training in discomfort, silencing doubt, and committing to the present, you forge a mind that cannot be broken. The transformation does not happen overnight. It happens in the daily choice to act despite fear, to walk forward when hesitation screams. Over time, you will realize that fear has not vanished, but it no longer commands you. Instead, it becomes fuel, direction, even strength. Here is a bonus insight for those who stayed until the end. Fear is not your enemy, passivity is. The moment you move, you already begin to win. Musashi's way is proof that courage is not the absence of fear, but mastery over it. Walk this path, and you will discover a life where fear no longer defines you, because you have become greater than it.